In 2008, Call of Duty World at War released, and along with it, something that would change the gaming landscape forever. For players that finished the campaign, they were met with something completely unexpected. You drove them deep into the heart of the Reich. You thought they were dead. You were wrong. Nacht, Der and Toten. What can I say about it that hasn't already been said? The map laid the foundation of what Zombies was going to be. Though initially put there as a fun little Easter egg and nothing more, the community demanded more, and every subsequent DLC map improved on the Zombies formula in its own way. The next map, Verrückt, added things like power, traps, and perks, and also gave the characters actual voice lines to say, making them more in-depth. Shionuma was the next map, and even though it removed the power switch for some reason, it still brought things in like Hellhounds, the Wunderwaffe DG2, and most importantly, the Ultimus crew of Takeo, Richthofen, Dempsey, and Nikolai. The community immediately took to these four characters. They were funny caricatures of the countries they represented: the crazy German scientist, the stupid gung-ho American, the drunk Russian, and the more reserved Japanese samurai. Introducing these characters showed that Zombies could be more than just a side mode. With the right decisions made, Zombies could actually feature a story and interesting characters, and this would come all together in DLC 3 for World at War on Der Reese.
Just happened. Everyone okay?
Oh, I feel like I will throw up.
A mere side effect, Russia. Everything is normal.
Let's get this done.
Der Reese is what I would consider the first modern Zombies map. It was the first time where they kind of took it a bit more seriously than they previously did. For me, Der Reese is a proof of concept that Zombies could become a bit more mainstream. Der Reese brought in things like the monkey bombs and Pack-a-Punch. This, I feel, made the mode feel more rounded and felt like it could compete with multiplayer for the first time. However, if Zombies was going to be taken seriously, they needed someone who could take Zombies to the next level, and the person that was put in charge of the next phase of Zombies was Jimmy Zielinski. Even though Kino der Toten was the fifth Zombies map, to a lot of people, it was their first. If Nacht, Der and Toten built the foundation, then Kino was its first initial supports. This map introduced a whole new player base into Zombies, and who can blame them? Kino der Toten is an iconic map. If you ask any casual fan what their favourite Zombies map is, there is a good chance that they will say Kino. It's simplistic, but not insultingly simplistic. It's easy, but not stupid easy. It's Zombies, at least bare bones Zombies, at its absolute best, and Jimmy Zielinski was the guy to thank for this. Well, kind of. You can tell that Kino der Toten was supposed to be on World at War. All the World War II imagery and weaponry shows that this map was probably just pushed back from World at War. However, the decision to make this the first map that you play on in Black Ops 1 was a brilliant decision. Originally 5 was supposed to be the first map. Imagine how different Zombies could have been if 5 was the only map at launch on Black Ops 1. Now, I actually like 5. I do think it's quite challenging, and the characters are quite interesting in it. However, 5 is not a casual friendly map, and I think that if 5 was the only map on Black Ops 1, it would have turned a large majority of people away from the game. Now, this is something you're going to see with Zielinski a lot, where he thinks that making a hard map is making a good map, and unfortunately, this would be the mentality that ultimately costs him his job. Now, Ascension is a monumental map. It's not particularly unique in many aspects, other than the big one. It created the first ever Easter egg. For the first time in Zombies, you had something to do that wasn't just getting to a high rounds. You had a quest that you, and because you had no choice, your friends could complete. And though the steps are very basic, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, it laid the foundations for modern zombies once again. The next map, Call of the Dead, was even more of an improvement. For the first time, we saw a celebrity cast, which showed that people were beginning to take zombies way more seriously in the community and the wider gaming world, as they were able to convince these actors to be characters in the third mode of a Call of Duty game. Call of the Dead showed that zombies was serious, and now it was time to propel the maps onto the next stage, to finish off Black Ops 1 strong and build up a bigger story for Black Ops 2. Now, Shangri-La is where I believe that Zielinski's flaws began to show. For the first time in Zombies history, the map was hard, and it knew it was hard, and it didn't shy away from making itself obvious that this is going to be an extremely challenging map. The problem, I believe, with Shangri-La is that Jimmy Zielinski made assumptions about the community that just weren't true. The first assumption is that people like a hard map. However, Kino der Toten and Der Riese are two of the most iconic and beloved maps, and these are not hard maps by any stretch of the imagination. Similarly, maps like Verrückt are more challenging and aren't as beloved by the community at this time or currently. The second assumption is that people were at the same level in terms of their zombie skill and their willingness to play the maps properly. Again, this just isn't true. Shangri-La is a map that if you don't understand how to play it, you're not going to enjoy it. If you ask any casual what their least favourite Black Ops 1 map is, they will definitely say Shangri-La. Shangri-La is not for a casual player. However, at this point of the game, there were very few people that exclusively played zombies. This means that a large amount of people were not able to even play Shangri-La properly because they didn't know what to do. And the third assumption was that even if you know what to do, then the people that you were playing with also knew what to do. Now, at the time of Black Ops 1, public games were a huge thing. That is how at least I played all of my Black Ops 1 zombies, and Shangri-La is not a public game friendly map at all. To get Pack-a-Punch, all characters must simultaneously stand on 4 pads. How are you supposed to do this in a public game in a time where microphones and party chat were not a thing? This began to show that Jimmy Zielinski didn't understand the zombies community, and that maybe he was just making the maps for himself. The zombies community and Jimmy Zielinski were not on the same wavelength, and I don't think for DLC 4 that Zielinski learnt his lesson. Once again, things like the teleporter required all 4 people to stand on it. I can count how many times in them early Black Ops 1 days that we didn't even get to the first room. Moon, at least for me anecdotally, again was a very hard map. Once again, as I would only play public games, getting back to Area 51 and getting Jug and Pack-a-Punch was almost impossible. My games would consist of me going to Moon, buying PhD Flopper, and that would be the game. I don't think I ever got past round 20 on Moon in the early Black Ops 1 days. The map required a level of knowledge and skill that I don't think most people had at the time of the map's released. Moon, again, had an Easter egg. And whilst the payoff for this Easter egg is one of the best payoffs we've ever seen in a zombies map, the process is tedious and monotonous. Most of it requires pressing X on different computers and going back and forth from Area 51 to pick up different things. And don't even get me started on the amount of times you have to hit the box to get all 3 wonder weapons required for the Easter egg. Moon is an extremely polarising map, but he just made a polarising map before Moon. So currently, Jimmy Zielinski was on a 2-map streak of creating maps that weren't particularly well received by the community. However, we hoped that Black Ops 2 would change this. When it was announced that zombies would return in Black Ops 2, we couldn't wait. there were rumours of a zombies campaign and a ranking system that would give the players an experience similar to campaign and multiplayer. This was a huge step up, and there were lots of promises made for the first map that we couldn't wait to see for ourselves. It was also announced that the classic multiplayer map of Newtown would be getting zombified. This just increased the hype that much more. Black Ops 2 had built it up so much that it was impossible to fail. When the trailer for Transit came out, speculation began. For instance, you couldn't see Rustman's face. They always blocked it out. What did this mean? Also, the ranking system was shown as the characters moved from map to map, indicating that there may be a bigger story going on, and that maybe the levels were different levels within the Zombies campaign. It also showed things like buildables that excited us as a community, and made us feel like Zombies could be entering its golden era. And then, the map released. What was Jimmy Zielinski thinking? This map was terrible, and furthermore, it wasn't what we were promised at all. Now, retroactively, we would be told that the map went through development hell, but unfortunately for Jimmy Zielinski, that is a him problem, not an us problem. The map was that bad that the Zombies community went into almost hysteria. People were creating theories to justify the lack of features on this map. There had to be more, right? People used the tiniest bits of evidence to justify theories that made absolutely no sense, but people didn't want to accept the fact that Transit was just an awful map. Now, there were some positives about the Black Ops 2 experience at launch. Grief was introduced, and it created a fresh way to play zombies. For the first time, zombies could be played competitively. And it's funny you should mention that. On Saturday, the 11th of May, at 7 PM British Standard Time or 1 PM Eastern, the Resurrection Grief Tournament will be taking place, and I will be competing as a captain of my own team as we try to be the best zombies YouTuber Grief team. Make sure you click the notification bell so you don't miss this exciting zombies event, and head over to my community page where I'll be giving you more information about this Grief tournament and how you could potentially be a part of it. Now, you may think that was a shameless plug, and that's because it was, but what it does show is that Black Ops 2 has got features and potential that could have made it better. However, it also shows that Jimmy Zielinski, once again, did not listen to community feedback. The Transit Easter egg was convoluted and made no sense, a critique that was used by the community for Moon. The map was large and spacious in parts, but also tight and confined in others, making some of the map very difficult to play in. The characters, once again, whilst they had a few funny lines, did not have any substance, and this is an issue that Jimmy Zielinski had throughout his tenure as creative director of Zombies. In fact, you can hear that during the development of Classified in Black Ops 4, that the production team didn't even want to use Jimmy Zielinski's Ultimus crew because of how basic and how little of characterization they actually had. In fact, I would argue that if Town wasn't a playable map in the survival mode, that Transit could have got the Vanguard treatment, and Zombies could have been scrapped for the foreseeable future. It was really that bad. Through ignorance or arrogance, Jimmy Zielinski persisted with his ideas for Zombies, and then when Die Rise came out, that was the final nail in the coffin. I think what shows this clear disconnect between the development team and the community is the PhD flopper controversy on Die Rise. Now, for some reason, Jimmy Zielinski thought that a vertical Zombies map would be a good idea, and he was wrong. Die Rise is a terrible map, but there is one thing that could have made it just a bit less terrible. PhD flopper, a perk that negates full damage, an issue that is persistent throughout playing Die Rise. And Jimmy Zielinski knew this, because the perk is literally in the map. You just can't access it. And for many, this was the final straw for Jimmy Zielinski. Just like in the story of the Tower of Babel, a breakdown in communication and understanding between the community and the Zombies creative team began the end for Jimmy Zielinski. Just as the people who created the Tower of Babel sought to build a tower to reach the heavens without effective coordination or understanding, the developers and community struggled to work together effectively without clear communication channels or mutual understanding, and this happened on both sides. The community began to use ad hominem attacks, criticising the developers' motives and intelligence instead of offering constructive criticism on the gameplay mechanics. Treyarch, however, never addressed the community's concerns and refused to engage in any back and forth conversations. This is a recipe for disaster. After the success of Mob of the Dead, made by Jason Blundell, Jimmy Zielinski was on his way out, and we don't know whether he was out before or after the release of Buried, but to me, Buried seems like one last throw of the dice, one last chance to prove that he can still make a good zombies map. And Buried is okay. However, it simply wasn't good enough to prove that Jimmy Zielinski should stay as the creative design director of Call of Duty Zombies. And in December 2014, Jimmy Zielinski would leave Treyarch. The foundations of the tower he constructed had finally been destroyed because he couldn't communicate effectively with the people who he needed the most to be on his side, the community. So, looking back at Jimmy Zielinski's tenure as creative director of Zombies, was it a success? Well, kind of. It's hard to ignore his initial impact that he had on the Zombies mode. He created the foundations of some of the things that we come to expect from a Zombies map, even to this day. However, Jimmy Zielinski wanted to take Zombies in directions that didn't make sense to the community. He tried to make Zombies into something that, to be honest, is closer to the zombies that we have currently in Modern Warfare 3 and Vanguard. To me, he never really treated the mode with respect. He always kind of looked at it as the third mode of Call of Duty. He wanted to take zombies in directions that the community didn't agree with. And I think once Mob of the Dead had come out, that you could tell that Jimmy Zielinski was probably out of his depth and that change was needed. Ultimately, Jimmy Zielinski didn't understand the community, the people that he's making the game for. This made his games, especially Black Ops 2, extremely 50-50, with half of the maps being really good and half of the maps being really bad. And unfortunately for Zielinski, most of the bad maps are his. Transit and Dire Eyes, for me, are case studies on what not to do on a zombies map. To understand your limits on game design and storytelling, and to try not to be too ambitious. Unfortunately, this message was not received by the next person in line. Jason Blundell, on Black Ops 4, would fall victim to the exact same thing that Jimmy Zielinski would. Maybe the Zombies creative director role is a poison chalice, or maybe the community just don't know what they really want. And unfortunately, Jimmy Zielinski had to step down in order for Zombies to go to the next step. The tower that he had built was destroyed by the same people he built it for.